Hello and welcome to the new look Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So let's crack on and meet our very first eager and excitable contestant.
Hello. Exercise equipment I'm not using. My mum 30 quid or something. I just wear them as pajamas.
And welcome to this week's episode of Cast v Crew v Lockdown, episode 9. And as a recurring theme to these episodes, we still don't have Josh Cooper. But this week we do have Tom McGrath, who you may know from the Life's a Pitch podcast and various other improv things in and around Sheffield. This week, the story as chosen by you, our audience, is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. As always, our guest, Tom, and resident team cast member, Matt, are going to be team cast, and they're going to tell you a wonderful fairy tale. Meanwhile, me and Mary are going to interrupt the story with these cuddly toys to introduce various plot points that will disrupt and change the story in new and wonderful ways. So, Tom, whenever you're ready, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So, I'm pretty sure Goldilocks starts with, to use the sort of film phrase, an establishing shot of an urban apartment building. Goldilocks, who is played by none other than Florence Pugh from Midsummer. An actress I've been a fan of for the last year. She's got a hankering. She is desperate to do some robbing. Like she's just got out of jail for breaking and entering a few months ago. The judge let her off after a few months in prison. And she's just like, you know what? I'm so bored. I'm gonna go. I don't want to even break into a house in the city. I want to go out rural, out into the. You know who's got money? The people who live in the woods. So she gets the bus out to the woods. It's the number 92 to the woods. It says. The bus driver's like, "Oh, Goldilocks, I hope you ain't robbing again." She's like, "You never know. What a day it will be." Smash cut to a house in the woods,
which is inhabited by 3 cowboys.
Now, these here cowboys have been inhabiting the House of the Wood for quite some time after they decided to pack up their ranch and head to somewhere a little more woody. Now, as it was at the time, these 3 cowboys had just risen and they had cooked their morning steaks, made from their own cows, which they'd taken from the ranch to their cabin in the woods. And the chief cowboy, the head honcho, the big cheese, and various other names that mean he was the boss around here, said, "Well, a yeehaw." It appears to me that these here steaks, they're too hot right now. They're too hot. And he salted them and peppered them, and he put a little sauce, and he said, oh god damn, no, these are still too hot. We can't eat these here. We can't eat these here now. Well, I put it to you boys. The other two boys were sat there quietly because they don't interrupt the big cheese when he's talking. I put it to you here, boys. We go out, we go for a ride or a jog, depending on how fit you're feeling. And we'll ride around the woods a little bit, see if we can spot ourselves some pretty little trees. And then when we come back, we will eat these here steaks when they're good and cool enough. How would you say to that? Now, the two other cowboys were relative to the head honcho, medium-sized and then rather little. The littlest one being a sort of a trainee cowboy, only just getting his first spurs and really working his tongue around the word yee-haw. The middle one was sort of a mid-ranking cowboy, had been around the ranch was around the ranch, now around the little house in the woods a few years, working his way up towards what he would eventually aspire to be a head honcho of his own house. But that was the hierarchy. Now, they headed out on as it turns out, they went for a ride. They saddled up their horses and they galloped off into the woods, rather irresponsibly leaving their front door completely wide open, because there was just no crime around these parts. Now, at this point, we see that the bus rolling up to its bus stop, the bus stop, of course, labelled The Woods, and Goldilocks tripping gently out into the foresty undergrowth. The bus driver said, well, don't go robbing now, and Goldilocks went, ah! And then the bus driver rode away thinking, well, that was a rather non-conclusive exchange. Goldilocks wove her way through the woods, as was her wont, and espied the house and thought, I'm going to rob you. And she wandered up to the front door, which was wide open.
However, this wasn't dramatic enough for her, so she decided to go through the back door with an axe.
She's smashing this door in with the axe, and then she just goes, "Here's Goldie!" as she chops through a bit, looks around. There's no one in. The front door's open. Why don't I go through there? She says out loud to herself, and then she breaks through the door, like bloomin' heck. These guys, wow, look at this house. This house, who lives here? There's guns, there's cow skin just up on the wall, there's an entire John Wayne collection on the DVD shelf, and there's plenty of money just lying around. Also, steaks on the table. And she's never had she's grown up from a poor town, and she's never had steak before. So she goes and goes to the table and sits down on one of the chairs. She's like, oh god, I can't, like, this chair is so small, I can't even, my face won't even go over the top of the table. Who sits in this chair? And then she goes on to the next one, which is way too high. This chair is like massive. It's just above the top of the table, and her legs are just sort of dangling over the table. She's like, this is just ridiculous. This is stupid. Who could afford a chair this big? I'm gonna steal it once I get out of here. And then she sits in the one in the middle and
is ejected through the roof of the house.
This was, to say the least, a bit of a plot twist for old Goldilocks. She had, of course, activated the middle cowboy's ejector seat chair, which he'd put in there as a prank because his other brothers kept sitting on his chair and either breaking it or doing no damage to it at all if the smaller one sat on it. Now, luckily for Goldilocks, the trajectory of this ejector seat was directly upwards. So she went up through creating a hole in the ceiling, and then fell back down through that same hole in the ceiling, back onto the chair. Now, the middle cowboy, a bit of an engineer, had seen this sort of eventuality coming, and so fitted the chair with what amounted to the chair equivalent of an airbag. So she thudded back down. Now, this cause quite a ruckus in the house. Because of the airbag exploding, the table was thrown across the room. The stakes splattered against the wall, skewering themselves on a moose head which was hung, which named Robin as the plaque underneath proclaimed. And obviously there was a massive hole in the ceiling where the bedroom happened to be, and she had also been catapulted through the triple-tier bunk bed which all the cowboys slept on. So needless to say, she had wrecked the beds, the chairs, and the stakes. And after all that wreckage, and possibly due to a slight concussion incurred when being catapulted through 2 floors of our house, Goldilocks decided to rest there on the airbag. And rest she did, in fact, so long that the cowboys returned home with a yee and a haw and a skippity skip and a whiplash. And they careened through the front door, went, "Yee-haw, it's time for our steaks," and then looked around and thought, well, goddamn.
Found the stakes impaled on the moose head and decided to have a mourning ceremony for them and their loss.
Oh.
Oh no! Oh, I was looking forward to those steaks so much," said the head honcho cowboy, crying that the other cowboys equally, well, not equally, but sort of one putting his hand on top of the shoulder, the other one again putting his hand up on the shoulder, because they were both middle and small relative in size to the cowboy. I don't think I'm gonna be awake very much longer, really. I think I'm just gonna go to sleep and sleep off my upsetness. And so the cowboys wandered in, only to find that there was a hole in the top of their bedroom. There was a girl in the bottom bunk who'd fallen through both things. They all, at that point, all grabbed their guns from their holsters and shot Goldilocks to death with their 6 shooters. Who was that? Said the head honcho. I don't know. I'll get the shovel. And then they all lived happily ever after. I think.
Well, there you have it. That was our rendition of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Thanks, Tom, for guest starring.
All right.
The moral of this story involves not breaking into people's houses.
Yes, you would get shot and buried.
Yeah, and it's ultimately important right now because stay distant.
Don't break into people's houses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Purely for that reason and no other. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe, stay smiling, stay distant, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. But yeah, if you like what I've done with Goldilocks, you can find a lot of that kind of humour at Life's a Pitch podcast, which is what me and my friend Matt Turner do. But yeah, we pitch films based on titles people give us. That's the get. We ask for made-up film titles and just pitch what those movies would be. Yeah, the latest episode saw Florence Pugh.
That's why you thought of it so quickly.
Saw Florence Pugh get her femurs removed by R2-D2 in order for R2-D2 to win races. Running races, yeah. It was called A Robot Stole My Femur, and that's where we went with it. So yeah, it was a fun time. And you can listen to more ideas like that on Life's a Pitch podcast. You can go to soundcloud.com/Life's a Pitch podcast for that. Our social medias are facebook.com/Life's a Pitch podcast, and Twitter is @Life's a Pitch Show. So yeah, if you want to give us a title at any time, or just listen to the shows, we put the links on there.